Yeah, he's a real slacker, isn't he, right? Just 7 Ironman triathlons. I think we're to be heralded and applauded when we just get up and take a little walk around the neighborhood. I've got a little bit to go before I catch up with that guy. I want to dive in here in a moment about our message this morning, but before we do that, I just want to give you an update in terms of how our church is responding to issues of hurricane relief. In the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, we have an organization called the Week of Compassion. I know it's a little bit of a unique name, and it sounds like it's only supposed to be for 1 week. It's actually year-round. The Week of Compassion is our church's benevolent agency that responds in times of disasters throughout the world. And so they've already been at work in terms of responding to Harvey. They're getting ready to go to work in response to Irma. As a congregation, the gifts that you have given through your offerings have allowed us to send them a check already. It's the request is in. It's going to go off this week. So as a group, we're giving some money for hurricane support together because together we need to do that. If you want to give individually, we encourage you to choose the charity of your choice to do that. But if you haven't done so already, the Week of Compassion is a great place to go. You can go to Week of Compassion, mark on there where you want your gift to go, and they will get it there. These are pros. They know what they're doing. And I know sometimes people say, what can I do? At this point, over and over and over, they say the most important thing you can do right now is give us money because we need to get in there and do some immediate response. So even as we're praying for first responders and praying for the safety of everybody else, if you haven't already done a donation, please do that, but know that your church has on your behalf. Last week we started a new series, and we began the series with what seems like a simple question. What do you want? What do you want? If you could wish for anything in your life right now, what would it be? Would it be a new house? New car? Would it be a new wardrobe? Some kind of gadget, some kind of hobby that you love to participate in? What do you want? Maybe it's not a what, maybe it's a who. Maybe it's a relationship that you don't have that you wish you had. Maybe it's a relationship that's broken and you wish was restored. Maybe what you want isn't either of those things. Maybe what you want is something that's earned or some kind of accomplishment. Maybe you want to have a new job or to get a promotion. Maybe you want to make that team or get that role in the play or musical. Maybe you want to get elected to student body offices, or maybe you want to get elected to public office. Whatever the case may be, what is it that you want? And maybe not is it necessarily what you want for yourself, but sometimes I think when we talk about what do we want, what do you want from other people? Because sometimes what we want is behaviors that we're not getting out of other people. Responses and interactions and things like that. One of the things that we talked about last week, and we reminded ourselves, is that often the things that we want point to a deeper level need. So those things that we want are they're signs of something that's going on deeper. So in the video we watched leading into this morning's message, he wants to be on the podium of the Ironman. He wants to be in the top 3. But then he says, what he really wants isn't about being on the podium. It's about overcoming challenges. It's about succeeding in that accomplishment. There's a deeper level thing that's going on for him than just wanting to be on the podium. When you think about what you want, what are some of the deeper level needs that are going on in your life? A lot of us, other than just things, we want security. Financial security, relational security. We want connection. We want intimacy. We want meaning. We want joy. We want contentment. There's all kinds of things that we want on a deeper level. And often those things that we want that are more superficial and up here, they're not necessarily bad things, but those things are often pointing to something else that we're missing in here. So how do we get not just what we want, but what we really want? Well, one of the things we've got to do in order to get the things we really want is that we have to discover what we truly value. We've got to get just beyond the immediate desires of our hearts and those things that we see that we want, and we've got to get down and discover what it is that we truly value, because we can have everything in the world, but if those things don't reflect our deepest needs and our deepest values, they're always going to fall short of getting us to where we really want to be. One of the things for me that I've discovered that's helpful as I began to explore what it is that I really want and what my deepest values are is to ask a question about the things that I want, and the question is just a one-word question. Why? Why do you want the things that you want? Why do you want that new house? Why do you want that new car? Why do you want that new wardrobe? Why do you want that relationship? Why do you want to restore a broken relationship? Why do you want that new job? Why do you want that promotion? Why do you want to make that team or get that role or be elected to that office? Why? What's the why behind the want? Because that why is often where we discover the values that are driving us. Now, again, it's one of those things where it sounds like it's a simple question, but once you begin to ask yourself the question of why, you discover pretty quickly that it can be hard and it can press up against you, because sometimes the answer that you give to the why question for what you want may reveal something for you or something in you that you wish wasn't you, that you wish was a little bit more. For example, let's say you want to be rich, right? I know being rich isn't everything. I remember asking my dad when I was a child, we were talking about this, and he said, look, son, he said, money will never buy you happiness, but I've been rich and I've been poor, and rich is a lot better. And I guess there's some truth in that, right? So let's say you want to be rich. Why? Why do you want to be rich? Why do you want to be wealthy? Maybe you want to be wealthy because you want a new house, you want a new car, and you don't just want new, you want really nice. You want nice clothes. You want everything that you want because those things you think are going to make you happy and make your life rich so that you can travel whenever and wherever you want to go, and you can do the things that you want, and you can have all of those things until your heart is completely fulfilled. But what if in asking that why, everything just circles back to you? Me, 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 me. I want to be rich because of me, 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 me. Well, if you're a Christ follower, and the reason that you give to the question, why do you want to be rich, is me, 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 then you're going to find that Christ is going to be bumping up against that. And Christ is going to be challenging this deep value that you have, that it's you before everybody else. Now, let's say you want to be rich because you want to take care of yourself and you want to be okay. You want to provide for your family and yourself the things that you need and not be worried about that. Financial security, that's a big important need for me, is to feel financially secure in whatever way that looks like. Let's say you want to be rich so that you're financially secure, but also so that you can care for others, so that you can help others reach their goals, so that you can be generous in your giving and your caring, and you can do that kind of thing to make the world a better place. If you want to be rich to change the world, because let's be honest, money changes things. Money helps make a difference. If you want to be rich to change the world, that's a different value than wanting to be rich just to take care of all your desires for self-fulfillment, right? You get the difference there. It's kind of an extreme example, but you can play that question out with almost everything that you want. What's the why? And here's the challenge about that. One of the challenges about that is if we don't figure out what it is that we value before we start chasing what we want, those things that we want and are chasing can often shape us in ways that start to form our values. Like we start to believe that those are the things that are going to make us happy and content and all that, and we start to buy into those things, and those things are driving us where we're going. As opposed to if we establish those values and we start to dwell in those values and develop those values and let those values shape where we're going, if you know your deepest values, then you begin to say, what kind of work do I want to do that reflects those values? What job do I want to have that reflects those values? How do I live in relationship with my children and with my parents and with my neighbors that reflects those values? How is it that I use my resources and what I have that reflects my values? What does the car I drive say about what I value? And how can I use that to kind of shape the things that are important to me? If you set your values first and you let those values be your ultimate goal, then what we get and what we live into, we're going to find is going to meet our needs in a way that all that other stuff we're chasing just isn't going to meet, because it's not meeting those big, deep values that we have. So that why is extremely important. Why do you want the things you want? Now, here's the hard part, as if it hasn't been hard already. Just because you name those values doesn't mean you can automatically make them work in your life, right? How many of you have ever made a New Year's resolution? Right? How many of you ever kept a New Year's resolution for any lengthy period of time, right? I've made one New Year's resolution that I've ever been able to keep, and I made it about 5 or 6 years ago, and I have kept it perfectly. The resolution was this: don't make any more resolutions. It's the only resolution I've ever been able to keep, and so far I've been perfect with it. But here's the thing, let's talk about what resolutions are, right? Resolutions typically represent something that we value, that we either want to add to our life or bring back into our life. So we make a New Year's resolution that we're going to exercise because our health is of value to us. We make a resolution that we're going to have a more financially responsible year because financial security is of value to us. We make a New Year's resolution that we're going to give up a habit, or we're going to pull back on some behaviors that we don't want to do because we want to live in ways that give us life instead of take life away from us. We begin a New Year's resolution where we say, this is what I'm going to do in terms of developing my relationships with other people because we value those relationships. And so January 1 comes and we make these New Year's resolutions because they're representing something that's valuable. And we're living into them because they're valuable. And we're committed to them because they're valuable. And we know that they're meeting our needs. And then February comes. And the alarm goes off so that we can get up and go and exercise. And we hit snooze. Right? The opportunity for deepening the relationship that we want to deepen comes and goes because it's getting in the way of something we want to do right now. We go out, and because we were so good in January, we buy ourselves a treat as a reward. And one treat leads to 2 and 3 and 4, and pretty soon we find ourselves doing those things that we had committed ourselves not to do. And it's like we can't help ourselves. And this is the thing, is the first time we start doing it, we know exactly what we're doing, right? First time you hit that snooze button, you're like, oh, here we go. I'm just today. And then, the 15th time you've hit that snooze button, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess I get next year, next January 1, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to do it right. It's like it's no matter how hard we try, we just can't get there. That doesn't mean that we're bad people. It just means that we're human. And I don't care how hard you try, you're never going to be perfect at anything, right? And sometimes no matter how much you want to do something, you're not going to be able to get yourself to do that something because you're going to fall short. That human nature is going to get inside of you. If you've ever been in that place, you're not alone. I guarantee you there are other people in this room who've been there, even if they won't admit it. I'll be the first to admit it. I've been there more than once. But it's not just us who struggle to keep living into the things that we value. The Apostle Paul, one of the most influential people in Christian history, outside of Jesus, probably the second most influential person in terms of Christian history, a big part of who we are as a people of faith. He struggled with this. And in one of his letters to a church in Rome, he actually wrote about it. And though these are ancient words, they're going to feel so relevant for you, and they really are relevant. They speak as though they're real right now, right in this issue. Paul was struggling to live into the things that he valued, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. And here's what he said about it. I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing that I hate. For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I do. Say that 3 times fast, right? Have you ever been there? Have you ever been so committed to doing something and then you don't do it and you're like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I not do this? Why do I always say yes? Why can I not just say no? I'm so overextended, but anytime anyone asks, I say yes. Why do I hit that snooze button? I don't want to hit that snooze button. I want to go and exercise. Why am I eating that thing or drinking that thing or doing that thing or living into this or living into that or not doing this or not doing that? Why am I doing that? I don't get it. Have you ever been there? Where it's like you're trying so hard and you know what you want to do because it's important and it's valuable, but no matter how hard you try, you keep doing the thing that you hate. You want to do the thing that's right, but you keep doing the thing that you hate, and you're like, what is wrong with me? Now, here's a really dangerous thing that can happen here. Sometimes, you know what we do? We begin not just to hate the thing that we're doing, we begin to associate ourselves with that thing that we hate. And this is just a real small step from hating something that we do to starting to loathe ourselves or hate ourselves or dislike ourselves or to see ourselves as being defined by our weaknesses. And so there can become this moment where instead of just identifying the things that we're doing that are wrong, we can start to see ourselves as those wrong things. We can even start to hate ourselves for it. I'm a weak person because I can't say no. I'm a lazy person because I don't get out there and exercise. I'm an irresponsible person because I can't get my financial life in order. I'm a cold, heartless person because I can't develop the relationships that I want to develop. And we begin to identify ourselves with these weaker moments of ourselves, and they start to kind of overcome us. If you've ever been in that place where you've begun to feel negatively about yourself as a human being for something that you're doing that doesn't reflect a value that you wish you had, then I just want to say very clearly, we are not defined by our brokenness. Our brokenness is a part of us, and it can be a part of us that we use for good or ill, but we are bigger than any one piece of anything that we are or are not. We are not defined by our broken human nature. That's not who we are. And as Paul was struggling to reconcile his having such a hard time of living into his values, he was asking this same question. How do I differentiate those two things? This is what he said about it. He said, now if I do what I do not want, it is no longer I that do it, but sin that dwells within me. I want to be very clear here. Paul is not giving us a pass. Paul is not saying that whenever we do something wrong that we didn't want to do, that we don't value, that we can just say, oh, it's just sin. Oh, the devil made me do it. No, the devil did not make you do it. You did it. I did it. We did it. What Paul is saying is it's that brokenness within us. It's that sin. And we've talked about what sin means before. It's an overused, kind of convoluted, weird word. But literally, it just means missing the mark. You could use that same word that they talk about in the ancient language to talk about sin as just missing the mark. You could use it for an archer. It just means missing the mark. And so if we're trying to live our lives into those things that we deeply value, those things that we really want deep inside, not just on the surface, when we fail to live into that, we've just missed the mark. We've just gotten off track from getting into what we really value. And what Paul is saying, no, that's your human nature that's getting you there. That's not everything that you are. Get back on track, rediscover those values, and begin to live into them. Listen, if you've ever been in that place where you've started just that self-loathing cycle, try to find someone to talk to. Try to share it with someone. Try to let them know that you're doing some things that you wish you weren't doing, and it's just kind of getting the best of you. And when they respond by telling you that you're more than those things, will you do me a favor and believe them? Believe what they say about you. Hear them define you as something more than those things you're struggling with. And recognize that when we miss the mark, that doesn't define us. We're bigger than that, and we're more than that. Here's the thing, we talk about this all the time. We're deeply loved just where we are, brokenness and all, but we're loved too much to be left in that brokenness. And God's trying to pull us out of that and get us into a place where we're living more into what we value. How do we do that? Well, we've already talked about that both last week and this week. How do we get what we really want? The first thing is to do what we've talked about. Identify your values. Ask that why question. Figure out what it is that you're really after in your life. What are your core values? The things that are richest, deepest, and most important to you. Name your deeper needs. Be vulnerable enough to admit to yourself and to others what it is that you need deep inside, what it is that you really, really want. And then don't trade ultimate values for immediate desires. We are day traders when it comes to pleasure in our life, when it comes to things we want. We will take pleasure today. We will gladly pay you for a hamburger tomorrow if you'll give it to me today. Right? You remember that old phrase from was a hamburger used to do that? Or which one? Grimace. I can't remember which one. Who? Wimpy. Oh, man. I know you guys are like, oh, come on. And the young people in the room are going, who? Wimpy. We will trade our souls for something that we want today. Don't trade ultimate values for immediate desires. Don't be a day trader with what it is that you really, really want. I've got one more question that I'm going to ask you, and this is maybe the hardest one. I don't think I'm giving you anything new today. I think you've thought about this before. But here's my question for you. When are you going to get started? When are you really going to start asking why? When are you going to start asking what it is that you really want? When are you going to explore your deepest values? When are you going to get started? Nobody is allowed to say January 1st. Nobody. I thought about doing this as a January series, and I realized, wait a minute, this isn't just a once-a-year conversation. This is something we got to focus on. What do you really want? How are you going to get there? Friends, I believe that when we do, we're going to find life, and we're going to find life abundant, not just for us, but for the world around us. Are you ready to get started? My prayer is that the answer to that is yes. Amen.